Unfortunately, today generation, fortunately, unfortunately, it's an instant gratification generation.
To start early and plan early. If you don't plan, especially for international students, I think accommodation becomes so critical.
In fact, my Twitter is accidental CEO. Do you read minds?
I don't think I'm good at that.
Still feel that you like limelight and popularity? If yes, nothing wrong in it.
Entering India for the very first time is still not that straightforward. You need somebody who's an expert.
I'm very envy of you, and because
money should not be the prime purpose. That comes secondary. But then you want to create and do something.
अब उसको आना है. अरे वो busy है तुझसे ज़्यादा है तो तू ज़्यादा follow करना. It's so simple.
India is number on the global export list.
Hey everyone, today's episode is very very special to me because we have today's sponsor, which is none other than Vita Student Living, is connecting Indian and international student with very safe, secure, value for money accommodation through university living. Because not just a masterclass to learn about UK and India corridor, but also to learn more about how UK is supporting India and India is supporting UK. There are lots of lobbying, there are lots of delegations and discussion happen between India-UK corridor. And on those note, and we all know that just off lately, there's a treaty been signed between India and UK for a free trade agreement. So congratulations to both the countries. UKIBC played a major role, and today we have Tushar coming in. I believe it will be a really a learning episode. And the way UKIBC connects Indian businesses with UK governments. Similarly, we have today's sponsor, which is none other than Vita Student Living, is connecting Indian and international students with very safe, secure, value for money accommodation through university living. Similarly, Vita is not just another accommodation. Vita is not just, for rooms. It's a culture. We are all about aspiration. We are all about hustle. Similarly, Vita, even the fact that their logo or their phrase is begin big. There are few accommodations which I personally, if I would get a chance to go back and study again, I would like to stay. And Vita Student Living and their communities are one of those. So on that note, let's get started. Hey everyone, trust everyone doing great. Thank you again for tuning in for another episode, Living Pod with Saurabh. And without me getting into any other things today, because I have an expert or I have a guest which I've been keen and eyeing to talk to. I won't say he's a friend, but I won't say he's just an acquaintance now. We've been bumping into each other in every events and conferences, and have a very high regards for his body of work. He's been around for a while. Many of you are aware, but still, for the new audience, for someone who is not students or parents or probably university education partner, because our audience I was going through is just not from the ecosystem or from a sector called higher education, but all across. And thank you for all the love and all the support. Tushar, I generally, what do? I don't introduce because, and the reason is I don't want to have a faux pas movement of saying something which is probably not relevant. So I take this liberty for all my guests to introduce themselves. So thank you for being around and thank you for traveling so far. Because of him, I'm wearing a jacket because he's been so prim and sharp that I have let me try to match you. So welcome at Living Pod by Saurabh.
Thank you so much, Saurabh, for having me. And I think you have outcast, you have outshadowed me in terms of dressing. So you're looking brilliant.
Thank you.
And it's good to be here.
Thank you.
And thank you for the invitation. I think this is my first time to visit your office, University Living, here in Noida. I think amazing team. You have a brilliant team and the section which we just, talked about. I think you do have the right infrastructure, resources and the skills to do brilliantly the job that you're doing at the moment. So a big congratulations to the role that you're playing in the education sector. And again, thank you so much for having me again today. So about me, my name is Tushar Chaudhary and I work as Associate Director at UK India Business Council. I've been working with UK India Business Council for the last 11 odd years. So been in this, working in the UK India corridor for some time. About my general introduction, I'm an engineering graduate. So from academic perspective, and then I did my MBA in international business. And then after doing my MBA, after doing my engineering, I realized I haven't practiced engineering in my job. honestly speaking, because I think in early days, you can imagine, you and I have been through the same pain. If you're not an engineer, you're not a doctor or a chartered accountant, perhaps, you need to think about what you're going to do with the life. So my father was a chartered accountant and he wanted me to be a CA, I was absolutely sure what I don't want to be. I was very, very clear. I don't want to be a CA or do accounts. I was clear I want to do medicine or do medical science. So what left was engineering. So this was kind of the only choice left for me to say, okay, I think I have to be an engineer. There's no other way. Otherwise, I'm going to have a very bad time at home. And then even if you qualify as an engineer at that time, if you're not computer science or electronics engineer, perhaps again, I think it's just doing a time pass. So for me, it's computer science electronics. So I had to be an electronics, I became an electronics engineer by default because of that thing. And I think it's good to see that this generation has got so much options, no pressure, much more freedom to pick and choose. I think there's much more awareness about what you can do in life and options available, which perhaps you and I can both agree at our time. We didn't have so many options. I think the options probably would still exist, but we didn't knew about it so much as today's generation know about it. And there's so much of information available. There's so many advisors who can guide you. There's so many people like you, who are supporting, students and kids at different phases and different other, stakeholders in this industry. So I think that has overall changed how we perceive and make decisions versus what we would have done about 25 years back, if I have to say. So I think that's from academic, that is what my journey has been from education perspective. When I started working, my first job after my MBA was to work with I would say perhaps my dream. I'm very passionate about two things in life. One is sports. I
we
like
share
sports.
that together.
Yes. So
but why are you not coming for our
I think
badminton?
I do owe it.
If
like
you
I
are
said,
passionate, it's okay. Even if you're coming from Gurgaon to South
I
Delhi.
know I could do that, and obviously very passionate about sports. It's tennis, lawn tennis, which I play almost try to play on a regular basis every single day, 6 o'clock in the morning, even in winters.
So you're not inviting us. Try inviting. I never step on a tennis court, but for you, I can.
Be my guest. I'll love to host you.
Would love to learn.
So I think we can plan that. So badminton has been another passion. So I do play badminton. Have played badminton a lot. Right across my school, my college period, and also after I was working. And obviously swimming, basketball, so all kind of sports. So this is something which is a big problem for me at home. Sports is a full-time job. If you really admire and love sports.
But it's one of the best hobby, It keeps you fit. It keeps you happy.
I think that is most important.
Yeah.
I think when I'm playing tennis, I have that, it's a stress buster for me.
Right.
It's so much relaxing that we all have pressures in life and work.
Absolutely.
While you're playing, I think it's a good team bonding exercise, opportunity to meet with your friends. Do what you love. So I think this is something which I love, and I think it's an opportunity for, I think, and everybody who gets an opportunity to do, whether it's cycling or riding or driving or whatever, I think enjoy your passion. And if your passion get mixed with the work, that's the ideal situation one can be it. I think most of us are not as, perhaps lucky, but I think we all, but depending on how you are and how you perform in your work, reflects how passionate you are about your work.
Right.
So I think, so I started my journey with Daimler Chrysler.
So sports is one, which is second?
The second is driving. I love long distance driving.
We talk about all your Lamborghinis and all, offline.
So second is I love driving. So after I did my graduation, my first job was with Daimler Chrysler, with the Research and Development Center in Bangalore as a research analyst. And immediately once you're out of the college, you have got hardly any idea what it means to you in terms of actual job role. Apart from so excited to be in that company, first of all, and the opportunity to work with Daimler Chrysler in Bangalore itself was a good enough thing. I didn't care about what the job role is, what the title is, what I have to do. That all came secondary. But then when I went into the job and a role, I saw this is more of a business analyst role, which means that you are doing a lot of research work and doing a lot of presentations and doing a lot of market research and looking at different sectors and comparing UK and India. I mean, comparing India and the US, different sectors and vertical to see what sectors are doing well in the US and what can automotive industry learn from various sectors. So that was the kind of role. And we were a very, very small team in the entire organization of about 200 people, maybe at that time, about team of 4 or 5 who were non-tech guys. everybody else was designing the car or testing the cars, or it's about R&D, research and development for the cars. That was the whole company except our team, which was all about research. So we were very different. I think it was a great opportunity, but that did not sync well in terms of where I see my skills, where I think I was good at. And the reason I told I did my MBA immediately after my engineering, because I wanted to.
Which year was this?
So this was, I did my engineering in 2003 and MBA 2006 when I finished MBA. And immediately after that, I joined Daimler Chrysler, which then got changed to Mercedes-Benz Research and Development Center in Bangalore. So I realized that I don't want to be a guy which is behind the desk. I want to be in front of the desk, try to represent brand and companies, and try to maybe, in my definition, to contribute more tangibly in terms of getting new business for the company, or leading as a brand ambassador and the face of the organization. I was more excited towards that role.
Allow me to interrupt here. Is it you like limelight? And why I'm asking this, and sorry, I'm going a bit personal here. I have a liberty, I'm taking a liberty, and I have a luxury that, because I'm not doing for views or news or propaganda, or, someone have paid us to only talk about this,
Yeah.
So I always try to do it for myself and to learn for our audience, So, like, you realize that, or do you still feel that you like limelight and popularity? If yes, there's nothing wrong in it, right? Because personality is very different. You're not on the face, right? Whenever you met you, you're more a listener than a talker. Like, I'm very clear that I like limelight. I like to be popular. I have no qualms accepting it, but deep inside, I also know that there might people who might feel that, oh, he's on the face, oh, he need to be everywhere, he need to be limelight. When did you realize that you need to be in front of the desk and not behind the desk?
Like I said, limelight comes much, much later. Once you've been successful.
Of course.
And your role doesn't come on day one.
Right.
I shifted my role in the very first year after I started working. So obviously I've got no idea how successful I would be in different role altogether or not. So obviously I can say for sure it's not for limelight. It's not for being in the face or being a glamorous life, whatever. Absolutely not. But I think that role which I enjoyed more as compared
business
to research,
development.
Yeah, research and sales and business development, which I think I personally enjoy much more than as compared to perhaps doing an analyst role, to keep it that way. So I think from moving on from that, the first 3 years I was in the automotive sector, but then I changed my role from very early days of research analyst for a very short time to then doing business development for automotive company again, in Bangalore, where I was trying to, for the very first time, take the company into the European markets. I don't know what they saw in me, but then they hired me for that challenging role, which was kind of
Indian company,
wow, which was trying to.
You want to name?
Dearborn Electronics. Dearborn, this is based in Bangalore.
Nice.
It is a US-based company, but they wanted to expand their footprints in Europe, and they're doing some great job in the European market. But then I had the opportunity for the very first time to explore Europe.
Very interesting.
With them to try and travel to Germany and France and other countries and then this is something, and then the few thing which has been quite common in my career, which I'll talk about in a while, and then from Dearborn, that gave me the right exposure and the excitement. Okay, this is something which I really want to do and do more of the same, of being in front and meeting with customers and trying to get new business for the company. And there on my UK, I think journey started on, where I got picked up for a company called the IET, the Institution of Engineering and Technology. IET. It's one of the largest professional body of engineers in the UK. So I was hired for them. Again, they were setting up the entity in India, a small company in India. So I was kind of the founder member, along with the CEO, who got picked up for, to expand their presence. So it was all well established, very, very known prestigious institution in the UK, but starting off their presence in India as a core entity. So I was among the initial staff members who were hired to expand the IT in India. So I worked for 4 years. Again, a UK base.
9 to 13.
This was 2000 and up to 12. 2012 I was with the IT, and then 2013, late 2013 is when UKIBC happened. So again with the UK corridor, but then more coming toward the consultancy or a market entry, a bilateral trade promotion body organization. So I think that has been my journey so far. Obviously, it's been great, amazing. And I'm very happy to be working and representing and working for UK India Business Council to try and contribute in a meaningful way to try and get new investment into the country. I think that's what our job is. As UK India Business Council, we support UK business and universities who are trying to enter and expand in the Indian market. So, we have been advising and guiding and supporting and hand-holding number of UK businesses who today are established in India, creating jobs and bringing new investment in India across multiple sectors. And we have roles, and I had a role to contribute in that journey. So, which is even much more fulfilling than being in the limelight,
So interesting, and just to wrap it for my audience, and I would like to have your view on that. As you mentioned, you were not an accidental engineer because there was no choice, but as you were also at least very humble to say that you didn't want to do engineering. But I tell everyone, nothing go wasted.
Absolutely,
nothing go wasted. You started automobile, but if you see, you started engineering that paid a foundation for technical stuff and probably engineering aspect. Correct. And which led you or given an edge to become part of automobile industry.
Absolutely.
Even as a research and also business development, and then that help you with Europe expansion, which give you a foundation for UKIBC.
Great point, and you picked the right thing, and that's absolutely right. Nothing goes waste. You always learn something new, and everything what you learn is kind of contribute in some way or the other, maybe today or tomorrow. In your career or otherwise in your lifetime. Engineering did help me in terms of shaping up thinking logically. With the engineering mindset, you always think about a different way of, logic always plays more important thing.
First principle concept and...
Yes. So I think that your mindset changes accordingly. And had it not been engineering, I would not have worked for Mercedes-Benz or for Dearborn. So obviously that gave me the roadmap to be where I am today. So I haven't practiced engineering myself. That's the only thing. We have not applied my engineering knowledge in my work, which I do day-to-day. But I think that overall knowledge really helped me to be where I am today. So I think that has been a great help. And then doing MBA gave me the channel to try and do more. In the business development where I did my MBA in global business management, helped me to try and use that platform where I can be involved in global economies and global business development, and not just for India, but for the other international markets. So, which thankfully I've been able to pursue that career so far.
No, totally agree. In fact, I'm myself a product of go with the flow, but wherever life is taking, stick around. You love driving, right? So, like in the hindsight, if you look behind, everything get connected.
Correct.
I just turned 40. So at 29, when I accidentally got into higher education, in fact my Twitter is accidental CEO, right? I never thought that the life gonna come this way, but I have one very very strong belief: whatever you do, stick around and be in that industry, in that aspect longest time. Then the advantage of compound will happen. Unfortunately, today generation, fortunately, unfortunately, it's an instant gratification generation, and even most of us, right? But with instant gratification, what happened? I need a dopamine to be excited, but I need results to get dopamine. But to results, I need to put efforts. I need to put consistent efforts. Correct. But this is where the impatience comes in. So to everyone, and this is another success story, which I always say that, one of the reason I have been doing it to bring all the success story in the ecosystem, not only from my student point of view, not only from my educator point of view, but anyone and everyone who's a stakeholder in this industry and have done well, because, and there are few consistent patterns. No one have become successful at least less than 10 years. We see that, they have become successful in last 2-3 years because we have not seen their journey of probably 20 years and 10 years in one organization, probably starting from a founding team and now leading that, vertical. So anyone who's watching this and you want to be grandly successful, so whatever you do, stick at least for 5, 10, 15 years and keep learning and evolving. If that is happening, not only me, everyone can guarantee your success.
I think absolutely right. There are a few things, which, and we're discussing about this before, that, when I hire people in my team, I think what I really look for in the people is, one is obviously skill is important, but that's not the paramount factor for me, at least, while I'm looking at, adding people in my team. I think attitude is much more important as compared to skills, because attitude you can't change. If you have that positive attitude of understanding and recognizing where your strengths and where your weaknesses are, and accepting that we all make mistakes. But then how do you improvise and make sure you don't do it, repeat it again, and be honest with yourself and be honest with the customers. I think that is something which is so super critical for salvaging that relationship and that trust, and that helps you being successful, in your business and with your clients, at the same time. So I think, and one which, and if you are a person which think that I've done a mistake, but how do I overcome it by not making a fool of myself or not looking bad, then probably you might get away once or twice, but then if that becomes a habit, then you're always defending yourself as compared to saying, I put my hand up and sorry, we all make mistakes, sorry, but I make sure this doesn't happen again. And the same thing is what you do with the line manager, with your team, with your peers. At the same time, in the business, you also have the same relationship with your clients. Being honest is absolutely...
all these things which we're talking as probably 35 plus, 40 plus is boring, but trust me, it works. Be honest is still not out of fashion. Taking owners is not out of fashion, right? In fact, as you mentioned, you might get away. No, you will never get away, because if, let's say, Tushar has seen something and he's not pointing out, that doesn't mean you're not seen it. You're just waiting or keeping a blind eye, and waiting to see the patterns. So nothing go wasted and nothing go unnoticed.
And so there's the second point linked to it. One is about your skill set and your attitude towards your work and having a positive attitude towards work. The second thing which I believe is extremely important, which not many people try and look at the same way, is about taking ownership of work. For me, for example, I've always worked in a smaller team size, which has been a founding member. Even with UKIBC, when I started off, it was a 7-team member. I started with the founding member. Fortunately, and still there.
1770.
With 7. And now we're about 80 people in India now. So you can imagine a small team. Now, when in a small team, your job description does not describe what you actually do at work. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to take complete ownership of the work that you've been assigned to. JD might say, I'm responsible to manage a particular aspect of this job, and that requires me to send an email to a stakeholder. But that stakeholder, say, for example, hasn't replied back. Now, your job is done. You have communicated what you're supposed to do. And I say, but because you haven't heard back, then that's not your problem. Somebody else has not replied, so they are at fault. Now, that's one way of working. Second thing is, now my job is to get a feedback, to get a response. Now, what do I make it? What needs to happen so that I make it happen? And that thing, I get a feedback from him. Whether by email or I drop in a message, I pick up a phone, speak with this guy. If he's not available on week, who's the second best person who can help me resolve that issue, or whatever it is. I'm just giving you one example. So unless you keep this is my responsibility and I have to make it happen. So you work with that mindset, make it happen attitude, is what is so important, rather than saying my job stops here. And now unless I don't receive a feedback, I've done my job. But then that work hasn't happened. So I think
Do you read minds?
I don't think I'm good at that.
Because in the morning, and yesterday, I was telling something to my team that, oh, sir, we have sent an email. And I was like, what next? We are waiting for them. I'm like, make it happen.
Exactly.
And in the morning when I'm taking a shower, I have the same thought, that loop going, that how can I tell them that it's not same thought which you mentioned, that you have good that you have emailed and you have sowed the seed.
Correct.
But if you need to see the seed into a plant or a tree, you need nurture, you need to give time and follow up. Yeah. As you mentioned, and now today's no one wants to call. They're like, we have emailed and we have WhatsApp. Yeah. I'm like, they might be genuinely busy. Just top it up, and make a call, and it works.
Yeah, and sometimes I think
it always works.
The individual ego which comes in because I'm so big, or whosoever I am. Send an email, or the other's got responsibility to come back to me. Why should I keep chasing that person?
True. And they must be genuinely busy.
Yeah.
See, it's so funny that you are looking to connect with someone who's busy or probably more successful, and then you're expecting that मैंने तो एक mail भेज दिया, अब उसको आना है. अरे वो busy है तुझसे ज़्यादा है तो तू ज़्यादा follow करना. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Coming to UKIBC,
yes.
And as you mentioned, it's UK India Business Council. Would love to know from you what all and why UKIBC exists, and is it only in India or globally, and what is its role and how you are going about it.
Right. So UK India Business Council, as the name suggests, we're a bilateral trade promotion body. And the reason why we exist is to support any number of UK business across multiple sectors, or any UK business between and universities who are trying to enter and expand in India. You can see us as a bilateral promotion body. You can call us as a market entry consultancy firm. There are various ways how we try and support and represent and be as active voice of UK business and universities in India. We are not for profit in the UK, so we're set up in the UK. We have an office in London, which is our headquarters. Our India office is based in Gurgaon, where most of us are based, but we have got team who are based in different parts of the country, pan India, and we work across multiple sectors. So, and we work because of who we are, by the nature of who we are as UKIBC. We only work in the UK India corridor, and that's what our USP is. For the initial few years of our establishment, once we are set up, we're also funded by the UK government. So I think there's a huge amount of credibility that comes to when we talk about UKIBC, the way we have been perceived. So I think we occupy that very niche and very sweet spot in the UK India corridor, where the kind of representation and the acceptance and the recognition that UKIBC has from both the governments in UK and India at the central level and at the state level, and also from the businesses and the higher education sector. I think that's quite unique. That makes us kind of one of its only kind in the UK India corridor. So we work across multiple sectors, ranging from ICT, financial services, sports betting and gaming, which you would probably get surprised how are we involved in that.
Wow.
Higher education has been a key sector focus for us, aerospace and defense sector. So I think all these areas which are of importance for the UK business to try and engage, with the Indian market are the areas where we try and play an active role. And we have been, we are a membership-based organization, so we have about 100 odd companies, who are members of UKIBC. Predominantly, these are UK companies trying to enter and expand in India. But we also work very closely with a handful of, and big Indian enterprises who are expanding their presence in the UK, vice versa.
Very interesting. If I were about to ask you answer that, is it only UK to India or is it also India to UK? So,
well, I think once you have the bridge, the traffic can flow either ways. I think that the bridge is established,
so nicely said.
And the traffic can come from India to the UK and from UK to India. But because I believe if you look at the ease of doing business or the challenges of a business working in UK or in India is very, very different. The ease of doing ranking for the UK is much higher than ease of doing ranking for India at a global level. So obviously that means that there's more support required. India is a much more complex market. Yes. Sometimes we say it's European Union by itself. Every state is so different from the other. Thankfully, we are now easing out on having national policies, which makes working in India much more seamless and easy as a common market, rather than when we had before the GST norms, for example, where every state had their own norms of taxation system. So it is different from. It's quite challenging still for any foreign business, no matter whether it's a UK business or a global business. Looking at India is a huge market, and if you have not been in India before, entering India for the very first time is still not that straightforward. You need somebody who's an expert, who can handhold and guide you, and can guide you in the best interest of you as a business. I think for us, being a not-for-profit, and with our relationship and our backing with the government, there's a lot of trust and credibility that comes to us, and we always have an unbiased opinion about any business that we advise and support. And all what we do is always in the best interest of the client first, and we come later.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. In fact, your bridge example is so relevant. I'm gonna drop somewhere.
Yeah.
And is it right to assume that you have more clients from UK to India than India to UK because of the same reasons you are saying?
Correct. So, I mean, if you look at, we made a membership or clients portfolio, about 80%, I would say, and these are UK companies who are based in India. It's not like they don't have a presence in India. They're looking at India for the very first time. So look at any of the big sectors, big names, and leading those sectors, from Rolls-Royce to JCB to Marks and Spencer to Diageo to Vodafone to all the banking partners that we have got, and other companies, manufacturing companies. So these are the companies who are representing the UK sector in some way or the other. Tata's, who are the biggest employer in the UK, are one of our members. Also, interestingly, being a business council, we've got different tiers of membership. The top tier of our membership, the senior management of those companies, they sit on the UKIBC board. So we have a very, very formal board structure, which is driven by businesses and universities to try and set the priorities. What is important for UKIBC? What are the areas that we should be focusing on, which eventually helps the businesses to in the ease of doing business and their success in the market. While we work with the government on both the sides in both UK and India, and we play an active role in how we try and have engagement and how we influence decision making with the policymakers, and how we provide platforms for like-minded people to come together in terms of our events and roundtable discussions to come together with a common purpose. But then we play an active role, and then the board some way or the other have got a steering wheel in some way that helps the businesses at the end to be more successful.
Very, very interesting. And out of my curiosity and probably little understanding or probably limited understanding, Department of Business Trade is part of UKIBC or it's parallel organization?
Well, for the initial phase, we were funded by the UK government. So it was called as UKTI at that time. And I think that every change of government, they keep changing the name. It's DBT.
Yeah.
It's DBT as the current name is what it's been known as, Department of Business and Trade, as you rightly said. So obviously, we work as a strategic partner or, as a hand in glove, with the UK government, which is DBT. At the same time, we've got other strategic partners like the High Commission. So obviously, we work extremely closely with the British High Commission and the Deputy High Commission offices across the country. In the education sector, British Council is one of our strategic, body who we work extremely closely. We work with UGC, with AIU, and with the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of External Affairs. With the Prime Minister's office in both the countries, and we also have got MOUs with different state governments in India. And all these states are quite relevant from the UK perspective. So if you look at the investment from UK to India, there are 5 or 6 states where you see more investment coming in. So it's Maharashtra, it's Telangana, it's Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi NCR, West Bengal, and so about 80% of investment are coming into these states. So we have got a very strong state relationship. I think it's about the opportunity for UK business to see where there's more business demand, where there's more skills available, and from manufacturing perspective, where you have got the jobs and the clients are based locally. So obviously, you look at these states which have got a much more kind of contribution in the GDP, state-wise contribution at a national level. So these are states who you probably see, the 5-6 states we picked up are kind of would be leading in terms of investment, in terms of skills availability, and in terms of the openness to attract foreign investment.
Very interesting. So while I was talking to you, so it's a parallel, what we work very closely with Education Island, right? Yeah. So, and then I realized why there's EEE and EI, and I now realize that EE is your enterprise, which is your UKIBC, and then you have education, which is for you. It's not a different name, but you have different sectors. For Education Enterprise, it's Education Island. So same parallel I can draw.
I think within UKIBC, it's only one as UK India Business Council, and we work across multiple different sectors. But we don't have different. Of course, the area which I manage internally within UKIBC is the Launchpad vertical, which helps UK universities or businesses to come and expand and set up in India. So while we work with larger businesses, which is more for policy advocacy work, ease of doing business, how do we look at giving advice to the government which impacts the taxation and tariffs or the FTA, areas between UK and India, which is so important for both the countries. But the smaller businesses, they're not bothered about the high-level policy changes. They need on-ground support, market intelligence, setting up an entity in India, practical advice of being present in the country. So I think that's how we touch both the spectrums quite uniquely and elegantly, where we work with the big companies, the heavy lifters on the advocacy side, giving policy advice to the government in both the countries. And then on the other side, we work with the SMEs, who are the backbone of every economy.
Every country, yeah.
Try and handle and support them on the ground.
Very, very interesting. In fact, so many questions. And, it seems that, you're doing a session with me individually. So sorry if I've been asking something, because it's curiosity to understand, exactly what UKIBC and also how the UK government and India government is working together, and who better than you, who is like a heart of UK-India business corridor, right? And you were mentioning about something like free trade agreements or free trade, lots of UK free trade agreements happening, right? Yeah. So if you can touch upon and throw more light, what all UKIBC and India and UK is going through because there are lots of news, lots of investments, and UK being like one of the favorite destination country, not only for students but also business. Just for your background, we also have UK companies. Like we have a 3 UK registered company.
Wow.
And I was like, why I have not spoken with you before?
Yeah.
Probably would have saved some money, or probably would have guided better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
coming
you
back
could
to
yourself see how easy is it or difficult is it for you to set up a company in the UK versus in India.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
and where you need more advice and help and support. So I think the reason why UKIBC has got a much larger presence in India, why we do have a very strong team
Right.
in the UK. So talking about the bilateral relationship between UK and India and the FTA point which you talked about. So UK and India, I think our partnership relationship is historic. I think it's quite special, and I think there is a huge amount of respect and credibility for UK brands and UK businesses and services, in country overall. If you look at, UK is the 6th largest investor in India.
Oh,
right? If you look at from the FDI perspective, over the last from 2000 and 2023, there were UK companies have invested about 23 billion pounds, so 34 billion pounds, worth of investment, and India is the 2nd largest investor in the UK after US. I think, like I said, the UK relationship has been amazing, and it's transforming as we speak. Obviously, UK came out of the European Union, after the referendum, and now for the UK, it's important to have those bilateral engagements between UK and the rest of the world. And obviously, India is a very, very important strategic market for UK and for various other countries, obviously. So obviously, UK wants to build that relationship, and FTA is a route for having that kind of special trade agreement between UK and India, which reduces tariffs, and which makes ease of doing business much more, easier and favorable for countries where you have an FTA between two countries. So obviously, we have been in discussion for having an FTA for quite some time. There is a political willingness from both the countries now. Obviously, we had election year in both UK and India. Things got a bit slowed down because of that, but now we have a stable government obviously in India, but we also have a new stable Labour government in the UK, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the Indian Prime Minister Modi, I think they're both committed to have the FTA signed. Till now, I think as of August last year, there were 13 rounds of negotiation which have already happened between UK and India. The 14th round of negotiation is going to start from January, from last month. This year, we're talking about the FTA and now the investment in both the countries. I think it's very interesting to note that there are more Indian companies who set up in the UK versus UK companies.
We are one of them.
set up in India, and you have got a presence in both the countries. So, you have a contribution in this regard. So there are about 954 Indian companies which are set up in the UK, and their combined turnover is about 40 billion pounds per annum. And they contribute as a corporate tax to the UK government and the UK economy about 944 million pounds every single year.
Wow.
And if you look at the Indian side, there are about 635 UK companies who are present in India, and obviously they are contributing a huge amount of to our workforce, to new jobs, contributing and creating about 600,000 jobs, more than 600,000 jobs, in India, and their combined turnover is about 51 billion pounds. So much more than 40 billion pounds that the Indian companies have in the UK.
Is it because Indian companies are getting better valued because of the startup ecosystem?
Much more talent availability, as we know, and obviously it's much easier and cheaper to hire more workforce in India, quality labor, which we have got skill work set, from engineers and from various sorts of different backgrounds, from finance, accounts, MBA, you name it. You have the talent availability in India, much more readily available than elsewhere in the world, and a huge growing and a young population. So I think that obviously says in terms of these numbers and investment, and which is not just for the UK but true for other economies as well who are investing in the country. Very, very interesting point which I thought I'll share with you is look at if you look at the global market share of exports which are happening across the world, and how much is India exporting globally to the world, and how much is UK exporting, and where does India lie versus the UK. I was surprised to see that India is number 12 on the global export list of all the countries put together, how much we export globally to all the countries put together in the world. And our combined, I think, export outflow is about $441 billion per year. And if you look at the UK, so India is number 12th and UK is number 14th globally ranking in terms of the export outflow from the UK to the world, and slightly less to 429 billion versus 441 billion for India. But you can say India is exporting much more to the world, and the reason why all the major economies and the developed countries are looking at having bilateral engagements and more relationship and the FTA with India because of talent pool. We've got a young and a vibrant working population, and plus I think India has the opportunity. I think the next 2 decades belong to India. If you're not in India, you're definitely missing the opportunity and missing the bus. So be it the UK or elsewhere.
Can't agree more. A couple of years back, I was the worst to move to UK. Because my business is something like that, wherein me or my co-founder, one of us needs to be in UK. And I want Mayank to leave because he has studied there for longest and I went for an exchange program, right? And his way of working is very tailor-made for UK way of working. Be at home, just stick in the front of a laptop and work long hours, right? But he wants me to move, and I was okay moving, right? We discussed everything. But somehow I just didn't move because of I have a very small daughter, right? And I'm not saying that I still want to, but to everyone, why I'm sharing this personal story. The best way you can make money and get the best of both worlds, set up your business in India, have a company in UK, have a best of talent pool in India, right? And keep visiting UK or different countries, right? You will get the best of both worlds. You will get the best talent at the right price point in India, and you will also get the best exposure and networking when you are traveling different countries. I've been so fortunate, and why I'm saying this, because you've been suggesting, you've been guiding companies. So is it the right way of thinking? Or there is something I'm missing?
Well, I think having a presence in UK and India for Indian business to have a presence in the UK obviously makes sense because of the opportunity. They have to have, global, presence and footprints in the European market. And for the Indian companies, obviously, and for the UK companies, like I said, you can't really ignore the India story any longer.
Not anymore.
Now. So, India and China and other markets, are the places where they have to be, where they have to be present. And all you need is the right partners, to be successful. I think that's where things very, mostly go wrong, especially for the UK business, because the landscape is so complex and different. You have done things by yourself, but you can imagine if you do the reverse, where you have a massive UK presence and you want to expand in India without no knowledge, then most likely things would go wrong and go south.
I'm feeling miss out that I would have been discussing this with you probably 2 years earlier. I try. And also I was also figuring out, I was also you asked that probably, I don't think, we will create more value to us. And I thought, okay, if you're saying probably, but I'm I would have been more persistent. I would have been more on your head.
No, I think it's not about the value. Obviously, I do appreciate and respect the fact that you are providing a value to the student in the entire journey of the higher education, and the global, higher education system. Obviously, you play and your company plays a critical role in that. It's just that the way we function, the way we support the universities to try and pick a call and to make a decision. And we as UKIBC, we try and respect areas where we want to influence and we don't want to influence decision making which happens from the university side.
No, absolutely. In fact, where I'm coming from is becoming a member of UKIBC to learn all these really deep hacks and probably best practices. So, but now I can call you as a friend, and probably we just started. We're just a 9 years young company. So I don't think we are going away for next 30-40 years. So we'll bother you more. But it's your podcast, it's your story, and it's your organization. So we talk about you, we talk about UKIBC. Let's talk into something which probably we both have common passion, which is higher education, which is UK universities recruiting from India and Indian students going there and make a mark for themselves, So, in this segment, if you can talk more about how UKIBC is creating value or, doing your task for universities and, how it's panning out.
Sure. I think it's a very, very important and interesting sector, to be working. It's very, very exciting. Higher education sector is extremely exciting at the moment. Thanks to NEP, National Education Policy 2020, which has really opened the door for the global markets and in true sense, really globalizing or internationalization of the higher education sector is happening because of the NEP policy.
You want to talk about NEP a bit more?
I would talk about that.
Because people have very pseudo understanding or probably have they talk NEP and then they just leave it. I want to know more if you are comfortable.
I'll come into that.
Yeah.
But just to bring the perspective of the Indian as a market, why it's important. India has always been, India and China, for example, they both have been, growing and contributing economies from student mobility perspective for the higher education landscape across the world, not just the UK or the Australia or the US. Look at any of the major markets, India and China are the biggest contributor as far as the mobility is concerned from India to the world. Now, globally, every year, about 1.3 million students, they and you have published a report, amazing report in the mobility sector. Also, you know the numbers more better than me.
No, thank you. You pick my smile. I feel as a very proud father. Because we don't come from a research, background. You understand. When you get a validation and highlight from best of people.
And I think definitely put that for putting such a brilliant report.
Thank you.
I think it's an amazing job done by you and the team. So many congratulations. So obviously, there were 1.3 million students who would go abroad from India to various destinations, US, UK, Canada, all put together. Maybe just more than 100,000, go to the UK.
Yeah.
So, and then UK has been the top 3, destination market for the Indian students for many years now. So we'll continue that way because of the history and the excellence and the research excellence which UK universities bring onto the table. So the quality absolutely is amazing and at par to best of the best universities in the world, and few of the best universities in the world are existing in the UK. The thing got changed when India got picked up as a market was after the post-study work visa got launched in 2019 for the 2020 batch for the very first, it got reinstated in 2020. So I think that's where the mobility numbers got picked up from, say, about less than 27,000 in 2019 to 126,000 in 2023, which has been one of the best years for most of the UK universities. It has dropped down slightly by about 20% last year, September 24, where it's about slightly more than 110,000 students which have went from UK, from India to the UK. So it is from the UK perspective, on the mobility side, it is the post-study work visa which really act as a catalyst to really see as an opportunity for Indian students or any international students who are doing the education or finishing the education in India, either master's or an undergraduate degree. They can now work in the UK for 2 years. They have an automatic post-study work visa, and the visa converts from a student visa to a Tier 4 visa to able to study and to be able to work in the UK after they finish their graduation. That has been a game changer. On the partnership side, it was the NEP, which is, I see mobility is important between creating trust and friendship between the two countries. And I would like to quote what I think the UK Minister of Education, Bridget Johnson, said in one of our statement after she became she handled her portfolio the very next month. She talked about how UK government is much more open and welcoming for international students, especially from India, and they respect the contribution that international students make to the UK economy, not just to the community or the university, but the economy as a whole. International students contribute 40 billion pounds, to the UK economy, which is amazing. So I think mobility is great, and she also continued to say that while she respects the contribution made by the international community and international students, friendship between two students from two countries also develop relationship and strengthen relationship between those two countries. So international students from India can act as a force for good to build relationship and strengthen relationship between our two great countries.
Absolutely. In fact, we are an example of that.
Yes.
Right? Coming from Meerut or coming from Saharanpur, Mirapur, my is from Mirapur, right? It's in UP, it's in Uttar Pradesh, and running a international business, not only from India to UK but globally, I guess all the credit where he went and stayed there for like 2-3 years and studied in international universities and have friends. In fact, I tell that in the business the best wealth is not money and all, that's a byproduct, and there are lots of money, but the relationship we build. No evening when I'm traveling, I eat alone. There's some friend, some part of the world which I call friend or a business partner or associate, and I guess that's the biggest strength. When you can call anyone anywhere. So yeah. And
that's what you probably want to remember as to build that kind of network and that relationship with those people, which helps you grow, but also helps establish your credibility and your kind of support that you offer beyond the business to the sector and to the community overall.
Let me put you on a spot. Why in this industry called higher education industry, why there's so cutthroat competition, and why previous generation, and most of them are good friends, been on podcast and all. I have heard their view, but previously things were like, they were not coming out and sharing all the insights and, giving their teams and company people more opportunity to thrive and grow and out there. It just changed in last 10 years. Probably more venture backed companies came in, or probably the overall also the information and everything opening up. But why in last 30 years, people who are part of a study about industry, I believe this industry should be not just 2,000 education partners or only 1.3 million or probably 100,000 going to UK, because there are 200 plus universities in UK. There are so many universities in India. Why India and UK as a together can be a study hub together? Why is there still US dreams? There are lots of people who are traveling, but I believe there can be more. I don't know if I'm able to explain my question, but the idea is that how we can open this market more, and from a UK point of view.
I think the competition has always been there. I think the different factors which play into student picking and choosing a destination and then a university, be it US or UK or Canada. I think cost plays an important factor, which has been improving, and education getting expensive and expensive. And it's also getting expensive for the universities to also acquire students at the same time, the marketing and the amount of investment. So I think everything is rising, the cost from a student as an investment toward tuition fees, and the same time for university to attract and to maintain their edge against their competitors is also getting challenging at the same time, because there are more options now. I think there are much more awareness about, for the student community to pick and choose or universities, and there are many more support factors available than they were not there earlier. So maybe there was less competition because you only know so much and you don't know, and probably you didn't know more, and most of you didn't even knew about options available to you, which you currently are. So I think because you got more options, now you can pick and choose. You've got much things to explore, and the reason why you all have to fight much more, the universities have to fight much more for that student, which perhaps was just coming on the ranking perspective. Looking at the top 10 ranking in the US, or there are more universities in the US. So just looking at the traditional routes and the traditional universities, versus now where you've got much more options and more flexibility and more support available, in the education sector overall, is what I would say, if I can answer that in some way or the other.
No, thank you. In fact, while you were answering, I realized that was a stupid question, and I still want to sound stupid on this question, because at one end there's a lots of cutthroat competition, and the other end there are still few players who probably lead UK recruitment. So probably that question was that, and I was like, I framed it better now, but thank you again to cover me up, because I actually sounded stupid on that question.
Nothing is stupid, but I think you rightly said the competition is increasing now. Universities see themselves, they see the pinch, and the mindset has also changed for the students. If you look at, we meet a lot of delegations from UK university vice chancellors who are coming in much more frequently now than they used to come before, and they would see the Indian students and the consumers always being very cost conscious. They've always been very careful about the returns or the employability factor. But now these questions have been put directly into your face. What is the ROI? Why should Indian student last? Why should I come and invest and study in your university? At this program, what's my foreseeable future? After I graduate from the university, what employability options do I have? Tell me, success stories and case studies of alumni who have been through from my, from India, not elsewhere. I want to see, and I put myself in their shoes. How do I see myself after I graduate versus other universities?
Yeah. And it's so beautiful. Wherein, what I was saying is, I would like, if I give a parallel example, that why should employer should be treated or an edge on employee. It's so beautiful, when you're mentioning that. Now students are also questioning universities. Why should be a part of their university? And it's so fair. Yeah. Someone wants to study at UCL and Imperials and KCLs. They should be best of the merit, and even other Russell groups or modern universities. But even students should have the rights, or at least have the option to ask the right question. And now they are asking because they have options. It's only not UK. It's not only US. Students are going to Europe as well.
Correct.
And they are definitely not choosing as per ranking or as per cost. They are choosing as per lots of factors,
Correct.
right? But someone who working very closely with 17 universities and many more, what trends and patterns you've been exploring, and you've been talking to your teams and best of the minds. What change you've been observing?
Obviously, like I said, India is an important market for the UK universities from the mobility perspective, and I don't see the trend changing in the near future. The numbers might go up and down, and because of various reasons, political reasons sometimes, and these factors do contribute. We have seen that with Canada market and other destinations.
Right.
So these things do hamper, but I think India will remain a mature market for the UK higher education sector, and has been there for a very long time. Will continue to be there for the foreseeable future.
Even with the cost?
I think looking at the quality, if you really want to have a quality education, and like I said, looking at the top universities who are there, US, UK will continue to dominate that sector, and you can't relish what Oxford and Cambridge and UCL of the world have been producing Nobel winners and research scholars and excellence, or the kind of research capability that they have is unparalleled, and that can't be, and you can't replace them overnight.
Can I challenge that thought?
Yes.
If with all due respect, with AI coming in, with mobility, with T&Es coming in, with system evolved so quickly and so multi-dimensional, right? So there is a school of thought. Everything is available on YouTube. Everything, even your Oxford lecturers, your Stanford lecturers are on YouTube. Why someone would like to spend 50 lakhs or like $70,000 or a pound to get access to the same lecture, which probably might not get because they were the best faculties. So, why still, as you are so confidently saying that UK and the university systems will continue to flourish?
But I think you can find content. I think there's no barrier for knowledge. Obviously there's an ocean available. And if you try and search online with ChatGPT and so many other platforms available, knowledge is not your restriction. I think the world is open. You can go as wide, as deep as you like. It's about the exposure. It's about the experience. It's about the global, working in that environment with different people from different nationalities, to come and have that experience of coexisting together, learning from each other, which you can't learn online. So I think if you look at diversity is so important for most of the UK universities. It's not about the objective. Okay, can I get all my students from India? Can I get all my students from China? That is not what anybody expects. While you can fill up your seats from each of these countries, but universities are very, very mindful to have the diversity element present, where you have the home students, you have international students, and from different countries. Pick any of the top university in the UK will have students coming in from more than 100 nationalities. Now, how do you get that experience of working, coexisting, and learning, and kind of working as team together with different nationalities, or different background, or different mindsets, and that prepares you to work for the global workforce in the future. Now, if you've experienced that in the education, you have seen and witnessed and been part of those discussions. You know how to work in a multicultural environment. You are so used to it. You have, and also overcome the challenges, which you have to overcome. Not everything is straightforward. There's a big cultural challenge which every international student, no matter which country you're coming from, has to face, has to adapt, and has to learn and be successful in that new environment. These things you can't learn and adapt yourself in an online function. You can to some extent. I'm not saying there's no opportunity. You can, I think, but the experience factor, and then the entire ecosystem and the infrastructure available, and the education. I'm a strong believer online will have a huge. I think that is something which is the future lies in, because not everybody can also afford to go to the UK.
Precisely.
There are about 40 million undergraduate students, which graduate from India every single year. We're talking about 1.3 million, which goes to the, abroad, all combined together. The 43 million students are still in India. Now, that's a very small fraction which goes to the UK for the actual experience. 95% of our students are still in country. I think that's where the T&E opportunity comes into play. Where, and coming back to the NEP point, from which has opened the door for the international higher education sector, try and welcome international universities, not just from the UK but from the world, to come and set up their presence in India. Now, if you look at the T&E landscape, and we published a report on the T&E infrastructure and the options available for UK universities or international universities from across the world into categorized into three different buckets. One is your soft TNE, then is your mid-level, and then is your serious or the third level of the TNE, the mature TNE. The first option or the first one is what we call as soft TNE, is about the having your articulation program, your student exchange program, or your where you have student mobility between UK universities, and Indian universities. And then the second tier is when you probably have, once you've got the understanding and you build a relationship between the two universities, between UK and India, or different countries, and then you mature your relationship at the next level. So say, can we have a more research collaboration or a joint degree or a dual degree, where you're co-producing a new curriculum, and where the Indian universities is also benefiting from the expertise that the UK university has to come on and bring onto the table, and that really uplifts the entire education
Quality,
pedagogy and the
ways,
landscape and the quality which Indian universities, obviously there are very few Indian universities which really offer quality education. Then most of them are still red bricks, but then I think the quality is not at par to the best of the universities in the world, which we all know that. So how does that system uplift itself? Is by partnerships. I think the TNE has opened that door for those collaborations of joint degree and dual degree, which benefits the Indian community, the Indian students who can't afford to go to the UK, but then still get the foreign degree by being based in India, having a similar experience and exposure of the modern curriculum and the industry-led curriculum, which UK universities have been practicing for so many years. So that's the second tier. The third tier is which is not what we're talking about, is having international branch campuses, where while you might have an Indian partner where you're kind of delivering core programs and delivering joint programs, but then if you want to set up as your own brand in India, which we are seeing examples with Southampton being the first UK university to set up a campus in Gurgaon, by the UGC route, and you've got two options, the UGC or the GIFT City options, where a number of universities setting up the presence in the GIFT City in Gujarat. So I think that is giving opportunity for Indian students to come and study directly for international university or a UK university in India. Obviously, you're subsidizing the cost because not everybody can afford. The affordability factor is so important, but then there's an aspiration, there's a huge amount of aspiration for number of young Indians, students who want to have a foreign degree, but still can't go there, but they still have a second best option of having a same degree. And I think the rules and the regulations have been extremely clear that the university is setting up in India, no matter whether it's a GIFT City or the UGC, the quality of the education cannot be compromised, has to be the same level as you deliver your course and curriculum in the home country. So I think the government has been extremely clear on that. They're not compromising on the quality. Obviously, what you're compromising at the moment is you don't get the same experience, the international, the community. Obviously, there'll be more Indian students in the Indian campus, so that's a compromise. But then at the same time, you're also subsidizing the cost. To a larger extent, an opportunity to get the same foreign degree sitting in India at the same level with the same program outcome, with the same learning, and obviously teaching and faculties will be at par. If they maintain the quality, that's important for university to maintain the same excellence. And the delivery of those programs in India.
In fact, let me add my opinion, and probably you can have a breather. Thank you for sharing all so many things, and I've written down. But so initially, when I would do my research, and there were people who were like, "Oh, TNE is coming now. There were less students going to UK or internationally," and I was like, I thought deep, and I like on the face value yes, but if I went deep and I like no, and the example is when Uber came in. We're like, now there will be no taxis and there will be no autos and people will not take bus. But it's the cost factor and also the stage of careers and our financial standing we were. I remember when I used to come from Meerut to Delhi, I used to take bus. And then from Anand Vihar, I used to take a Delhi bus. And then in my second year I was starting earning some pocket money. I started taking auto.
Correct.
Third year, I started taking probably Uber. So it's not that with TNE coming in, that student will go less. In fact, it will go further. More quality or more qualified student will go to UK, which have got the experience of that education systems. So it's win-win for everyone. You save money, you get an exposure, you get an example of what to expect when you go to UK or Australia for that matter. Quick question, you mentioned TNE through UCG mode or a GIFT City mode. So why Southampton chose UCG and not GIFT City?
UGC, University Grants.
Yeah.
I think that's a choice for universities to pick and prefer. There are different options available. There are different pros and cons and different benefits for both having a presence in the GIFT City and also limitations on both the sides.
And what are these?
So in the GIFT City option, which is there's only one GIFT City in Gujarat and close to Ahmedabad. You don't have a location option. So only if you're in a GIFT City, you can only be based in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad.
You can't take the proceed out of GIFT City.
You can't be anywhere. So location at the moment is only one GIFT City in India. They're also, because it's been governed by the IFSCA as a regulator. So the kind of programs that you can offer in the GIFT City is also
more
kind of
financial
focused. It's more financial services and STEM and fintech program which you can offer. So you can't offer liberal arts or law degree by having it in the GIFT City presence. But then you have got tax advantages. We have a tax holiday for 10 years or the 15 years, the first 15 years that you establish, you have got 10-year tax holiday. And you can, and there are multiple other advantages from picking tuition fees in global currencies, etc.
So is it right to say that if someone is very, very clear and very committed, and probably more mature, they will go through
UGC.
Yeah, UGC, right?
Yes.
University Grant Commission, right?
Yes.
UGC way. And if someone who want to come and test, but they are in that, as per your report, they are in the second or third phase, but they start with GIFT City. But the disadvantage is when you start with GIFT City, you can't get access to UGC or a bigger campuses.
So basically UGC and IFSCA are the regulators who will approve your application. So it's UGC which is outside the GIFT City. GIFT City the government has made it, it's kind of a special economic zone.
More like a Dubai or a
special economic zone where you've got no regulators playing or kind of taking time in terms of setting up, or there are more criteria that you have to fulfill. It's a kind of an easy, fast track process for university to come and set up. And I think the government objective, if you look at the government of India has got for the next 25 years, they've got a 5-year plan for the next 25 years. And they're setting up the benchmark, what the Indian government would like to see as how the Indian higher education system is going to evolve in terms of its academic collaborations, industry engagements, global ranking, and also producing cities which are student-centric. So they're trying to create an ecosystem where there are 5 mega cities which government would like to create and come up with, which are very much student-centric city. I think GIFT City is one such example with a very core focus on the skills that a student will be able to generate and learn from a particular university, because you're only focusing on a particular program which have been delivered in that zone. And then you also have the employers who want to have the same, and there's a demand available for such skills, who are coming out as graduates from that region. So you've got a number of insurance companies and banking partners who are already established in the GIFT City. So you're learning as a fintech, graduate, and then you get a job immediately in the GIFT City. So I think that ecosystem
very well thought.
Is going to get self-sustainable and I think, and similarly you might have, I hope so, the government might have a similar GIFT City arrangement, say in Bangalore, where you're looking at tech. Say tech and ICT and R&D.
Were the other two tech and then?
Tech, R&D, ICT, around those areas. And then you have focusing on the banking or say the manufacturing side. Say Delhi could be a region for manufacturing.
And for the art, Mumbai can be one because of Bollywood.
And modern arts and design and creative arts. And where you say, Mumbai could be one place where you set up as a hub. So maybe if you create those zones which are very specialized, where you're getting specific skills from the best universities in the world who are really have those at the university for those programs.
Absolutely.
And you have the industry who's catered for and have a demand to acquire and absorb those skill sets.
And I'm not aware of this mega city plan, and I'm so I will again flaunt somewhere, because this is so logical.
Yeah, I hope so. So India would have done this 20 years back. What happened with the Dubai International City, I can imagine universities do have a presence in Dubai. A lot of UK universities have presence, and they're thinking, we do have a campus in Dubai. Do I need one more campus in India? It's like, am I kind of impacting my market or duplicating? And the investments which I've made of millions of pounds by having a Dubai campus should address another investment in India.
They don't want to cannibalize.
Had India opened the doors, say 20 years back when the GIFT City, when the Dubai thing happened, and then you were choosing as a UK or a foreign university, where do I invest, in Dubai or in India? Look at the economy of scale. Look at the volume factor. It's no brainer.
I don't know if we have so popular that governments and decision makers are listening, but anyone, this is where India needs to have a policy on crypto, Web3, AI.
Yeah.
Because all the good talent, all my founder friends who have been techie, they went to Silicon and now they are going to Dubai. because of taxation benefits and clear, at least more familiar Web3 policies than in India. But then India being a conservative country and
India is
works.
moving in that direction, obviously. And coming back, higher education, I think it's always better than never. So we had the door open now. We're looking at announcements. We're looking at the UK universities. Obviously, there are very successful case studies we have got now. So Queen's Belfast University have been successful in opening up their campus in Gift City. Similarly, Southampton has announced of their presence by the UGC route.
Want to name few?
But I think there are many more which are about to happen. University of Surrey has made their intentions very clear that they want to announce their setup, and they want to set up in the Gift City. So that intention is extremely good and positive from the UK higher education perspective. University of Newcastle has also made the intention to have a campus in India with the UGC route, and they're looking at partners and partnerships for Indian educations to come and pitch for it. So I think these are amazing opportunities to really uplift the standard of education, for the Indian universities, especially the private ones, which really want to steer and really want to thrive and up their game in terms of the research collaborations and PhD scholars, and do more research and really look at the future skills, the AI and the blockchain and machine learning. And UK has got amazing programs which they've been, and these are very industry focused programs. So I think it's an opportunity for Indian university to really upgrade their curriculum, which is more looking at the industry demand and very much industry focused, and the employability comes naturally as a byproduct if your programs are up to date what the industry is looking for. So I think great opportunity, very exciting time, and I think that's what we as UKIBC are playing an active role to advise universities through various options available. The critical aspect still remains is finding a right partner in India.
I'm very envy of you, and because you're part of education system, and that to higher education, and you are getting to get access and meet best of mind, and you're not limited only to higher education like me. Probably through my startup network, get access to technology, but what a great profile, and anyone who would like to be, at this role, Tushar or, someone have reached, just start and stick around wherever.
I think there's a second phase of my role at UK, which many people don't even know, which is about supporting businesses. And we've got about 25 to 30 plus UK companies, we're set up in India through UKIBC with my team. I've been involved in setting up the base in India as subsidiaries in different legal formats and investing and creating jobs in India. And now we are the compliance partner for about 25 plus UK businesses in India. And they come from manufacturing background to ICT and different sectors.
Any example of one of your team member being part of higher education and moved to one of these companies because now they're like, okay, probably I have learned or probably I want to change. Any such example of someone working for university but you have other sectors and other companies? Any such movements?
Well, we do have seen movements. Obviously, every company do have aspirations to mature and to be under their own brand, under their own umbrella, than through UKIBC. We haven't seen. I perhaps don't have too many examples where I can quote where a team has moved from education sector to do something else. But within the education sector, universities have moved out and graduated. And we have held them in their journey of setting up, which we are kind of.
Is it because it's not a private company, or probably I would say it's been funded by UK government and it's not for profit?
We were funded. We are no longer.
So you bought back, or
we're self-sustainable? We did. The initial support was coming from the UK government because of our nature of who we were, and we were kind of way to go for UK government to say, if you're looking at India, you're struggling with the Indian market. We do have a partner in country, UKIBC. Go and talk to them. They've got a team of experts who can help and advise you and support you in your India journey. But then it was always a plan for that grant to kind of being taken away or keep reducing year after year. And certain stage we are now sustainable and doing things without the grant, luckily, and
very interesting
and doing well.
So we come to our last two phases, and it's a very now it's I start saying it's a role reverser. Any question you want to ask me, or about university living, or about myself, anything, please feel free.
I think one thing which I really want to compliment and really, congratulate you for building up such a successful business so far, because it's not easy to be at this scale where you are. Your mindset and I think your objective, the way your business ethics is, I think that's quite commendable. As you want to say, while everybody wants to be in business and there's a core objective why we exist, but then we also want to serve the community beyond money is not the only reason, why we should exist and how we can support and add value to the ecosystem. So I think that's quite commendable for you as University Living. The second thing which I've understood, and I think I'm correct, that you have seen, and I think any business idea cannot be successful unless you're very passionate for that reason. And money should not be the prime purpose, that comes secondary, but then you want to create and do something where you're seeing there's a problem which exists and how do I solve that problem? Because you've seen it yourself, been through it yourself, and the founders, as I said, both of you had challenges in accommodation, which is so critical for any international student, and you did something about it. You did not just stop there and say, okay, I had a challenge, let me overcome and then forget about it. But you stick to that point. You try and say, okay, what I've been through, nobody else should have a similar challenge, and what can I do as an individual to solve that and support the student community internationally. I think it's quite commendable. So many congratulations and well done for what you're doing today.
Thank you. It's a bit embarrassing and overwhelming. At the same time, I come from a background which is a business background, and I have no comms. I'm a capitalist by heart. But you can be a capitalist by heart by creating value. We got fortunate. We got blessed to have people who've been supporting. Yes, we work very hard, but everyone work hard, right? But I always say that if you have the right ethics and if you have a long-term vision, which is, yes, probably outlive your life. I'm not saying that, I want to create a legacy business, but I want to create a business which create value. And it's so simple, no? If you create value for ecosystem and people around, they support you, right? And the kind of sleep you get, that is beyond money. But by no means I am saying that I'm not for profit. I'm for profits, right? And when you are for profits, you have certain obligations. We've been venture backed, right? We keep raising funds, but we don't announce because we don't believe that announcing funds should be the destination. Unfortunately, today's media is like, if you are raising funds, you are successful. We say that we should be celebrating profits, but we should be celebrating success stories.
Yeah.
When we have few success stories, when people have to be hired, they stick around. They've been growing. We're able to sponsor their working license visa in UK. I believe that is the biggest success story than just raising funds. And thank you for all the good work, all the good words you mentioned. It's still very early days, but when you talk about housing problem, when your university talk about housing problem, then the pie go increase. And again, by improving student experience, because I always say, if students are happy, we will continue to be happy, not the other way around. And to make them happy, we need to take care of their overall experience. We need to ensure that they get employability. Then only any ecosystem is sustainable and growing. So any question on housing part, and you always been in the ecosystem, right? So why people don't talk about housing the way it should be, or the way people talk about education loans or remittances? Why people shy will talk about housing, at least before us, or even now? Everyone is not out and out. Why is that?
But I think housing is extremely important. Accommodation is extremely important. We're talking about this, before our podcast, that why students should start early and plan early. If we don't plan, especially for international students, I think accommodation becomes so critical. You can't, something which you can't take for granted. And I believe in the decision-making hierarchy of a student and the parent. The very first thing is to making sure, have I got the right university? And have I got the right program? Am I studying at the right place? And then they believe that because they've enrolled into a university now, rest of the things will automatically, and the visa is so important for them to arrive. So these things take the priority in terms of, have I made sure, have I got this, have I got the funds, afford an education for myself? So they take, they supersede in terms of the decision making and the priorities are concerned. And then you imagine, because I'm going for an established UK university, accommodation will not be so much of a challenge. University will help and support me. And that's where they get a surprise that there is a big rush. And if we don't, there's limited options available on the campus. And if you're an international student and going for the very first time, I would imagine most of the students would be going for the very first time to their whichever country they go to, say to the UK. So they've got no experience of being in the UK before. So this is something which is extremely important and should be kept at the same priority level as your visa or as your banking opportunities or your loans are. So I think I absolutely agree that this should be talked more and talk at the same length, at the same pace. as you're looking at other factors. And planning early is so critical.
So how should we make that happen? I mean, someone which is very close to university, someone who is also very close to the ecosystem, policy maker, decision makers, and I'm getting an opportunity to probably take a guidance free of cost. What will be your guidance to us as a global platform for housing to make it even more visible, having more awareness?
I think awareness is the key by having more discussions around these. By having more events, which talks about the challenges and bringing the students come in to try and share their experience of how the support that they have got, so from you. Because I think it's about, India is a very word of mouth market, be it about choosing a university or, I think that plays an important role. So India is a word of mouth market. And so as long as students are talking about the help and support and the success stories that they have got the support from you, and then how it's so important and has impacted or supported them in a very, very tough situation. Because if you don't have a hostel accommodation in the UK, you're kind of clueless what to do next. And to be in that community, Indians, we like to be around people from the same culture, the food, etc. So you want to be around people and you want to be seen that you're isolated in a foreign country where you don't know anybody around you. And that experience overall adds up to your international experience for being an international student in a foreign country. This plays such an important role. Accommodation is so critical and so important. I believe it's about reaching out and more case studies and more events, more discussions on this topic. And, I think, and then creating awareness from different stakeholders. And I think we could play a role in that. To create awareness and to talk to our university partners to try and see what challenges do they foresee, because every university has got a bit of a limitation of what they can offer and how much they can't offer. So there are priorities to UG students, to international UG students, to have an on-base, on-campus accommodation. But then if you don't apply early, you still miss the bus. You still have a challenge of not getting that accommodation. So I believe universities can be a platform to talk about, make sure you got your support available, make sure you've planned this well enough in time. The team that we have in India can make sure students have been advised to talk about these things while you're planning to picking a university. They also plan, okay, are you sure you got everything covered up? Because finance becomes an important. You start thinking about finance immediately after you're thinking about your higher education. Are you thinking about accommodation at the same time? Maybe not. You think about it after the visa is sorted. Now I'm about to land. Okay, what have I missed? What I have not planned? Oh, accommodation I not planned. Sometimes it's more reactive. Especially for the PG students, I would imagine they say, I'll find my way out. I'm mature enough to handle that. And I've got friends and family, say for example in the UK, they'll take care of me. But then, like I said, the experience is all the same. And you want to maximize your experience.
But why students should not stay with their family, friends and save money and then stay probably on campus or off campus, as mostly off campus? Why? Because
I think I'm not against students should not stay with their families if cost becomes a factor and you want to save that. But I think it's your overall on-campus experience by being in that zone, by accompanied with your friends and your colleagues and your peers, who are all struggling the same, having the same experience, having the same struggles, the same challenges, the same success, sharing. And I think we all can say that, for example, for ourselves, for me, my engineering days are the best days of my life. Had I did an online education or did education sitting at home, I would not have the same experience. Right. I can tell you that for sure. For guaranteed, it doesn't change at all for international students.
I mean, I got my founder, my roommate, while I was at DU.
So, and I think those relationship remains for a lifetime. And I think, and what you learn and experiment and what you go through that phase, by experimenting things a lot of times, and decision making, I think that you become a decision maker where you are doing your education when you're all by yourself. You can't pick up the phone and ask for every single thing and help. Somebody come and help me. You have to manage things yourself.
And even to figure out help where you need help, you need to
manage your
go
resources,
through that,
your money, your funds, everything. I think that makes and changes life. The way you think, the way you behave, the way you react, the way you manage and adapt yourself in life starts from there.
Lots of heavy stuff. Let me lighten up the segment, right? So we have rapid fire. And I believe
I wasn't sure this was part of the plan, was it?
I don't know if my team has sent you, but don't worry, it's not coffee with Karan, there's no hamper. There's a reason it's rapid fire. Most of my guests, because probably I also talk a lot, So we get into thinking mode. So there's no thinking, right? Unless until you want to avoid, or
Yeah.
if you would time travel, you would like to travel in the past or in the future, and why?
Well, I think maybe in the past,
And why?
maybe I would pick up by, say, being a professional sports car driver, or which I wanted to say, can I be a professional Formula One driver? And obviously could not do so. If there's opportunity for me to turn, maybe something which I could do about it.
So you're playing gaming. Are
No,
you
I don't.
no? Probably you can fulfill your some desires and dreams by be a big gamer.
Yeah, maybe.
3 things which we always find on your work desk.
Well, I think my to-do list,
Okay.
and then mobile, and then my notebook, which I'm still carrying.
Are you a very organized person?
I try to be.
But if
then-
you want to define yourself, are you happy with the way you're organizing your life?
I think there's one thing, like I said in my beginning, I did say in my beginning, I hope, that working with a smaller team in India, that you have to be, you can't be organized all the time because the work is not organized and you have to take
so
multiple
true.
things.
So true.
And if you drop things sometimes all of a sudden and then just focus on one thing or doing an event, everything has to stop because you have to make that event successful.
Yeah.
So whether you are MD of a company or you are a manager or you are support function, they all have to get involved. So and then you're missing out on something else.
So true.
So it can't be organized unless you work with a well-established company.
No, even
watching-
that. In fact, now the superpower of every organization, any professional, is about their agility. So Abhinav was here. Abhinav from MSM, Eduvers. So I asked him, and that time it was 90 hours work, thing happening. So I'm like, 70 hours, 90 hours, or work-life balance. So he mentioned very beautifully. It's about getting your work done.
Yeah.
If your day is where you're we are traveling, then if you are very organized, you probably miss lots of things. But if you're traveling, then you need to be agile, right? So it's all about getting your work done.
Correct.
And that should be a priority, and that should define that day, whether it needs
What
to be
is
like
required.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. One Indian startup or industry in the UK should pay more attention to, apart from university living.
Well, Indian startup. Well, I think if you look at I would say higher education, which is close to us, and we all see how it's evolving and happening. I think not just the UK, but the world is kind of looking at India in the education space. So I would try and keep that.
If you had 59 seconds in front of the Honorable PM Mr. Modi and Sir Keir Starmer together, what would be your pitch?
Doesn't seem like a rapid fire.
15 seconds. Okay, 15 seconds. You can take 15 seconds.
I think the pitch is obviously looking at how do we mature our relationship between the two countries, which is so. Like I said, we do carry a rich history, between us, understanding between the two countries. There are sectors and opportunities for both UK and India. In the defense sector, where India can be a helping hand for the Indian economy to have more defense collaborations. India could be a good support from talent perspective. So mobility is extremely important. A lot of tech collaborations on AI. I think UK is a kind of a powerhouse when it comes to research development. India somewhere lacks on those fronts. So how we can work together to be more focused on research and development collaborations in the ICT sector, the fintech space, and the healthcare sector. I think AstraZeneca and Serum Institute has been a phenomenal example how partnership between two countries can impact globally and save communities across the world. So how do we make sure that those partnerships keep existing and keep flourishing by the help of the government from both the countries?
To make sure that we think about it. What's your I'm too busy excuse when you want to escape a meeting?
Well,
That's a good question, my team.
I just say I'm busy.
One thing about studying the UK that no brochure or website will tell you.
I think a lot of students go with a very preconceived, kind of thoughts. Okay, I'm going for the UK. Will I find a job? And it's more about getting what you get as an outcome, and then they miss the experience part of it. I think flourish. Try and make friends. Learn from that. Being in that space. There are great teachers and friends that you can make, and I think which can stay with you for a lifetime. So at the same time, students should try and be well prepared. There's a different notation of how education is kind of happens in India and the support that you get, especially for job placement in India versus the UK. So you have to also be mindful of what you expect, what you don't expect, where you get support, where you not support. So it's not about just landing there and then we'll see what happens. At the same time, try and get the best of experience. Enjoy your stay while you're in the UK. Make friends for life. At the same time, make a life for yourself.
Lovely. And that's why it's the reason it's not on a website or a brochure. You need to experience it. If everything on brochure and website, then there's no fun. In fact, 90% of things, and there's a reason it's called brochure and website. It's just a teaser. And I have a bias towards UK, being a UK alum, or I'm a UK product. University living started with UK as a destination. So I have a bias for UK, right? And I hope it not put me in a wrong, books of other destination. But there's something magic about UK. As they say, you're in UK and you're in London. If you're bored in London, you're bored from life. So experience that Londonness, experience that UK, and the UK is just round the corner. It's just 8 hours, and you get lots of Indian, you get lots of food. But don't just stick with Indian students. Stay with all across, and as you mentioned, make a life for yourself. So on that note, any last departing message you want to share to me, to the audience, to the team?
I think this requires, I could see the efforts that is required to make this podcast. So first of all, a big thank you and congratulations to the team and for inviting me here today. This is my first podcast ever that I've been. So you're a pro, but not
No,
me.
I'm not pro.
I hope this is when maybe good. But then thank you so much for inviting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Thank you for opening up and making me more wiser.
I think likewise. I think I've learned a lot from you as well. So thank you.
So that's about it for this podcast, and I hope you enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed. Not every day you get a chance to interact with Tushar and also to learn so much, and also authentic. What I learned today is be authentic and be genuine. And when you are not selling, you're actually selling. If you can think about how you can get value for someone across the table, probably that person will tell 10% that they are the right people to work. Right? So this is my learning, Tushar. I learned the way how you've been managing yourself, so calm, composed, so authentic. Authenticity in this ecosystem is rare. There are many, but also there are many which are not. So thank you for being you yourself. And only from that aspect, if you can share at least with one person, at least in one WhatsApp group or in one university group or with anyone you feel, please do it. And if you feel it's trash, if you feel it's not good, please do comment. I would like to read all the bad comments or all the ugly comments, because that's how we will improve. Apart from that, we try to bring best of guests and best of us. Thank you for supporting, and look for more such episodes and more of your support. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.